Okie dokie. Well, folks, it can be hard indeed to get people focused on doing the right thing at the right time. And isn't always just about what is useful. Lots of times, most of the time, people are engaged in things that are useful. May just not be absolutely the top priority. So, we are here today to talk about 8 ways to help you as leaders get your people doing the right stuff at the right times, getting the right stuff done. I'm privileged to have Glenn Gow, CEO coach, here with me today to fill out 4 of those. And I am really looking forward to learning from Glenn. Glenn's got 4. I've got 4. We have not spoken about this in advance. So you will be learning from Glenn at the same time as I will be learning from Glenn, and I'm ready to take notes. Glenn, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, fantastic.
I'd love to have you introduce yourself.
Well, sure. And I'm here to learn from you as well, Aaron. So this will be very enjoyable, and I hope the audience learns something as a result. My name is Glenn Gow. I'm a CEO coach. I'm also a keynote speaker on artificial intelligence, and I'm also a board member. And I'm really excited to be here because the topic we're going to cover is something that every CEO that I work with, one way or another, needs to address. And I'm looking forward to jumping in and educating everybody in the room here.
Well, all right. I am also really looking forward to it. Folks, you may already know me. I'm Aaron Schmuckler, CEO, company culture engineer at the Yes Works, where we are working every day to help leaders like you and their teams come together to create the kind of cultures where people and profits both rise together, kind of environments where behaviors are, if not exactly, then very much what you might like them to be. So, Glenn, I'm going to turn to you now and say it's time for us to give the people what they came for. They came for 8 ways to get people to get the right stuff done. Glenn, what is your first suggestion for the good folks at home?
The first one has to do with establishing clear objectives, key results that have been agreed upon by the owner of the key results. So what does that mean? So this comes from a framework called OKRs, or objectives and key results. Now, you don't have to use objectives and key results. This is just a tool. But the point is that the CEO needs to ensure that all the direct reports in particular have a clear understanding of what we're here to try to accomplish. That's what the objectives are about. And then, in order to accomplish an objective, let's say one objective is we want to increase revenues, very common objective. Then the question is, over the next quarter, this is typically done in a 90-day period, what are the key results we need to achieve in order to increase revenue? And these key results might be build a sales infrastructure, close so many new deals with new logos, and hire so many people. Those could be key results. And there's going to be an owner for each of these key results. Maybe HR owns the hiring. Maybe IT owns the infrastructure. Maybe the head of sales owns the number. But we're gaining great clarity around what it is we're doing here as a company and who owns certain key results that are going to help us achieve those objectives. So that's the first one.
Well, I think there is obviously just tremendous wisdom in this, right? It can be hard to get people doing the right things if they don't know what are the outcomes that we're going for.
That's right. That's right. And the important thing about being clear about the objectives and being clear about the key results and who owns them is we're implicitly saying, hey, Aaron, we're not going to do certain things this quarter.
Yes.
We're taking those off the table. Because look, we're ambitious people. We want to get a lot done. Maybe we're even impatient people, and we know we can get a lot done. But the fact is, unless we are narrowing our focus on a small number of things, we're not going to get a lot done.
Love it.
Proven over and over again. We have to focus.
As important as what are we going to do, I hear you saying is what are we not going to do?
Exactly right. Exactly right. And there's a tool for this too, where you say, let's say during the quarter, Aaron, you're the head of the sales infrastructure project, and you come up and say, whoa, we really need to I've come up with this great idea about how we need to integrate what we're doing with this new AI tool and everything. And it's not in the key result. What we do is we say, Aaron, great idea. Let's put that aside until the next planning cycle, which is only 90 days away. And we'll determine its priority at that time, because it's not an emergency. We don't have to address it right now. It might be a great idea, but we need to have our heads down getting the job done that we already agreed we have to get done.
Love it. And one other thing that I want to bring people's attention to in the way you first phrased this, you said that the people responsible for those results have agreed to.
Correct.
And you can only get accountability. Accountability only exists in the environment of a commitment.
Exactly.
Until somebody's committed verbally, right? Said, yes, I will do that. I will do this task. I will accomplish this result. Until they've committed, there is no accountability is kind of irrelevant.
That's right. And I'm glad you brought that up, because there comes a time when you're doing this as the CEO where you have what I call the commitment conversation. So I might say, Aaron, are you sure you're signing up for this? Because this is a big ask. I'm telling you, it's a big ask. I know it's not going to be easy. So I don't want you to sign up for it if you actually don't believe you can get there, number one. But number two, I need you to be committed. Even if you don't know how you're going to get there, be committed to give me your very best effort to make this happen. Because I'm not going to fire you if you get 90% of the way there. I'm going to be really pleased if we get 90% of the way there. I mean, I want you to get to 100, but it's about the commitment that I'm asking for from you.
Beautiful. Terrific. All right. All right. It's time for my first suggestion. Here's my first suggestion is goes hand in glove with what you just shared with us, Glenn. Share commander's intent. Repeat. And also, by the way, repeat the repeating. So commander's intent is a concept that comes out of the military. And the idea is don't just tell people what to do. In fact, sometimes you may not want to give them instructions at all. Though even when you are giving somebody instructions, essentially outlining the task, also give them what is the reason for this task? What is the outcome that we are looking for? That way, if you were to say, for example, to somebody, go to the closet and get me the blue bag, they may come back with a blue purse. And what you actually wanted was something that you could put your groceries in. There's also in that closet a blue shopping bag, and they just found the first blue bag they could find, and they brought you that because you didn't share commander's intent. So there's my first suggestion. Share commander's intent, and also understand that I love what they say at Manager Tools. If you tell your team something 7 times, then half of them will say that you told them once. So you've got to repeat this and not be frustrated by the simple fact of neuroscience that people aren't going to remember what you said.
Right. And I love the commander's intent, because the way I describe it is we're telling that person why we want this to happen. And that gives them the freedom to figure out a different way of accomplishing it. So let's say in your blue bag example, I happen to have a blue bag right next to me that's going to be good. I'll say it differently. I have a brown bag next to me, but it's going to help you get the groceries that you want to get. And I can do it faster and cheaper than running back to the closet and getting you something that you didn't know about. You didn't know I had another solution.
Love it. All right. So there it is, folks. Share commander's intent. Repeat. All right. Glenn, we're ready for your second suggestion.
Fantastic. Let's see it up here on the screen. Okay. Ensure there's a plan for achieving the key results. So critically, let's go back to my example of Aaron, I need you to build a sales infrastructure for our organization. So, and I get your commitment. The next thing I'm going to say is, Aaron, please develop a plan on how you're going to get there. Now, remember, we're talking about a 90-day period. So the plan should have milestones. Here are certain things I believe, or Aaron believes, needs to get done in a certain time frame. Now, the beauty of the plan is, as the CEO, I'm actually evaluating you right now, Aaron, based on the quality of your plan. Okay, that's number one. I want to see what kind of thinker do we have here. Do I have someone who actually understands the task in front of them?
Mm.
Have they laid out a plan that makes sense to me? That's one aspect of the plan. The second aspect of the plan is I can add value now and say, oh, Aaron, you didn't realize that this is happening. Let's add this or take this away from your plan. So now you have a better plan sitting in front of you. And so we've just gone through a process where we've tested the feasibility of the key result you're attempting to accomplish. Because I may also say, Aaron, I don't see how you're going to get this last step done because we don't have the resources for that. You're assuming something that you didn't know about. So the planning becomes critical, and it's just a 90-day period. But if I let you go and you know my commander's intent, you know your key result, and now we have a plan to go against it. Now we both feel comfortable that it can be done. We don't wait until the end of the quarter to find out, no, Aaron's never going to get there because the plan never was something that could make this happen.
I love it. I'm thinking as you're talking about this, Glenn, about a client who asks one of her lieutenants, things are not going as efficiently in our warehouse as I want them to go. And she didn't know why. Why are things not going?
Yeah.
And he didn't know why things weren't going as well. And so she asked him to figure this out and solve it. And it just was too big a task, it seems, for him to figure out how to address this. He didn't know where to start. And so week after week, month after month, there wasn't progress made. Assigning the task, all right, next week or 2 weeks from now, what I want you to do is bring me a plan for simply finding the inefficiencies.
Sure.
Right. That's the 2 week. That's the 2 week thing, right? Is bring me a plan for finding the inefficiencies, identify the problem.
Right.
That can be enough to help somebody narrow down the problem that can be overwhelming. And it becomes a benchmark.
That's right.
Okay, 2 weeks from now, if I have a plan, then we are making progress.
That's right. And I think we're going to talk about that soon, exactly how to implement that. But what's your next one, Aaron?
My next one is, again, I think we're in lockstep here. Trumpet the priorities. This goes back to what you were sharing around objectives and OKRs. Trumpet the priorities that trump the priorities that are going to prevail. And I remember seeing, I think it was Seth Godin talking about how he ran one of his companies where, they said, this is the number one priority for the company. This quarter is this thing. Yep. This is our number one priority. And you could do this with more than one. And everybody who was directly responsible for OKRs in that objective had a band around their arm. And so if they were walking around the office, people knew this person is directly serving that priority. If they got in line to use the copy machine, everybody else got out of the way.
Yeah.
If they said, hey, can you help me with something? And if somebody with a band says, hey, can you help me with something? And I don't have a band, then I put down whatever I'm doing and I say, you got it. So when you trumpet and make these priorities really understandably the things that prevail anytime there is a contest of resources, whether that's the copy machine or budget or people's time, we know what wins that conflict for those resources.
Love that. And I have a story about a CEO who did something almost exactly what you're talking about. He said, look, during this quarter, I know we have to do a lot of things. Like we need to hire people, we need to close deals, But the number one priority is we need to improve the quality of the software we're delivering.
Mm.
And he defined what that meant very specifically. But then, to your earlier point, he had to repeat this over and over and over until people actually believed that this was the number one priority. And he taught people the trumpeting. He taught people that if they brought things that were really not priority issues to him during that quarter, he just said, I'm not going to discuss this with you.
Ooh.
It doesn't make the priority list. Until we complete this work to improve the quality of our software, we're just not going to spend time on these unimportant things. And it was brilliant. It was brilliant. It actually took them 6 months to get there, but now they proudly walk into customers because they know they have software that works.
And as a CEO myself, right, leading an organization myself, Glenn, I know that is hard.
Yeah.
Right? That takes unbelievable discipline. I'm not very good at that. And it is incredible what you can accomplish when you really do focus in and say, this is getting everything from me.
Right. That's right. And you have to teach the organization that this is what we're doing.
Yes.
And the why, right? The commander's intent. We're doing this because unless we solve this problem, we don't have a company here. But if we solve this problem, we have a fantastic winning company. But this is the number one thing.
Terrific. All right. Glenn, I think it is time for your third suggestion.
Fantastic. Let's see. Let's pop it up here. Have the owner of the plan review progress against the plan weekly. Okay. So what does this really mean? It means that looking from the CEO's perspective, we want the owner of the plan to take responsibility for not only progress against the plan, but against reporting on the progress of the plan. So at the top of the agenda for a weekly one-on-one with the owner of the plan, remember, Aaron, you own the responsibility for building the sales infrastructure. You and I have built a plan together. I need you to report to me every week, how is that going? The simplest and best way to do this is just give me a red, yellow, or green. I just need to know how you're doing against the milestones of the plan. Now, there are a few important things here. If it's green, we probably don't have very much to talk about. But if it's yellow or red, what I'm asking you to do, Aaron, is to tell me why it's yellow or red and bring me a recommendation about what you need to remove that yellow or red, to turn it into a green. And now there's a quickly associated role with this, because one of my CEOs told me, hey, Glenn, I'm following all this. This is working great. And it wasn't until the last 2 weeks of the quarter that everything turned yellow and red. And what that CEO didn't do, and now I teach all my CEOs to do, is you say something very simple to your direct reports. Never surprise the CEO.
Yeah.
Tell me in advance. If you have an inkling that maybe you're falling behind, make it a yellow. Let's discuss it. I want you to bring these issues to me so we can discuss them early in the quarter, not at the end of the quarter.
I was going to ask you, how do you define yellow? And you define it exactly the same way that I do. If you think you might be falling behind, it is time to say, hey, things aren't going as swimmingly as I hoped, right?
Exactly.
Yes. All right. Well, you're not saying I am behind. You're not saying I'm going to be late. You're not saying there is a problem. You're saying there might be a problem coming down the pike.
That's right. And there's a key cultural aspect to this, because I know you really love the cultural aspects of things here, which is you want your people, your entire company, to feel comfortable talking about issues and not feel like they're going to get in trouble for saying, oh, I'm not sure that plan, the whole plan I signed up for, I'm worried. If you bury that and you don't communicate that to your direct manager, then you're going to get in trouble. That's the culture we want. We want a culture of openness and comfortableness in saying, ooh, maybe I signed up for more than I I could handle, and I might need some help.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. Right? Is that we want to reward the kinds of behaviors that we want to see, and so
Exactly.
too
Exactly.
often, too often we say, I want to know if there's going to be a problem, and then, folks, uh, it's really important to recognize that your facial expression can be a punishment.
That's right. That's right.
So when somebody says, "Hey, I think there might be a problem. This might be late," and you, even that one moment of exhaling hard through your nose
Totally.
is enough to prevent them from ever doing that again.
That's right.
And I know, and I am somebody who doesn't necessarily always control my face. So there it is. It you can win that moment back by saying, "Pardon me. You're fine. Thank you so much for bringing this to me."
Yes.
It's just, the facial expression that I just made, that exhalation through my nose, the reason was not because I don't want you to bring this to me. It's just because I care so much, and thank you so much for bringing it to me. And now, right, and you got to lighten up your voice like I am doing
Yes.
and say, "All right, let's figure this out together." You can claw it back. You can win the moment, even if you've missed that moment of discipline. To discipline yourself to say, "Okay, I know this just happened, and let me tell you about it, and also let you know, you and I, we're still good."
That's great. That's great. And it's especially important for a CEO, Aaron. So I was a CEO for 25 years. And I once learned that my team said, Glenn, well, they actually told me, they said, Glenn, you are intimidating.
Mm.
And I looked at him like, what do you mean I'm intimidating? I know your family. I've been to your house for a barbecue. We're colleagues. And I realized it actually wasn't me personally. It was my title. The
Oh,
title of
wow.
CEO is intimidating. Why? Because I hold their future in my hands, whether it's a promotion or a bonus or more responsibility or more time off, whatever it is they want. And so that in and of itself is intimidating. And so when you give me that little facial expression, it turns out it's a big deal.
It is a bit. It is amplified through a megaphone.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
I when I'm training CEOs and managers and anybody who has the power to hire and fire, I say, in every relationship with your direct reports and anybody who is in your downline, there's a gun on your hip. All the bullets in it are labeled "You're fired," and you can't put it down. You're like a cop in
Yeah.
that respect.
Yeah.
That gun is part of every relationship, that you have, whether you ever put your hand on that gun or not. It's there,
Yeah.
and it informs the relationship.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's a great way to say it.
Uh, all right. My third suggestion for folks is conduct weekly one-on-ones. You've got to be conducting one-on-ones every week with every single person who reports directly to you. And I recommend that you require it of any manager who reports to you as well, all the way down the line, no matter how
That's right.
many layers there are in your organization. Now, you might be saying, "I don't have time." And that's for one of two reasons. Either one, you've got too many people reporting to you, and 6 to 8 really is the max, or uh, you're wrong. And the reason that I say you're wrong is that every person who's pushed back on me about this, pushed back on this idea, and I say, "Try it for 3 months." They come back and they say, "Aaron, I don't have time not to do this."
Beautiful.
It saves so much time. It saves so much headache. Glenn, you were talking about, are you red, yellow, or green?
Right.
You're gonna discover in these moments the things that should be yellow because you're having these one-on-ones. Uh, you're going to have the opportunity to say, "Okay, this is green. tell me about the Schuster account. I'm curious how,
Yep.
tell me some stories. Hearing these stories is going to give you the kind of information that you wish right now you may be saying to yourself, I wish information was coming to me. I promise this is the way to get it.
And yeah, it's interesting you bring that up, because I just assume everybody has one-on-ones every week, right? But you're right. It is not the case. And I think maybe the most important thing you said is we need to ensure that everybody who is a direct report of mine is also having one-on-ones. And let me make a suggestion to make this a little bit easier for the CEO, which is you ask your direct report to create the agenda. Now, the best way to do this, you put it on a shared document, maybe a Google document, so that you see the agenda before you meet, and you can add some things as the CEO to the agenda. And you ask for it to be in priority order, because I might just set aside 30 minutes for a one-on-one. I need to make sure we're talking about the most important things at the top, because we may not have enough time to cover everything. So, but I want people to I want the CEOs to delegate the responsibility of building the agenda to the people who are going to sit down with them in that one-on-one.
The other way to approach this, folks, if you want me to send you a guide on how to conduct one-on-ones that you can use, that you can share with your direct reports and have them use,
cool, send one to me.
I will. The other way to do it is to have essentially a set agenda where you give the first half of the meeting to them. What's on?
Yeah,
I
okay.
start all of my one-on-ones with what's on your mind, and if it's I'm worried about my cat, then that's what's on your mind.
Yeah.
And if it's this is what I did with my family over the weekend, then that's what's on your mind.
Yeah.
And if it's the Schuster account, then that's what's on your mind. And so it could be as simple, and this isn't the guide that we give you isn't this. It could be as simple as tell me what's on your mind.
Right.
You get the first half of the meeting. I'll tell you what's on my mind and ask you the things that I want to know about.
Yeah.
And that's my half of the meeting. It could be that simple. And the purpose of the one-on-one is to build strong relationships.
Yeah.
You will cover work stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The bulk of your time is likely to be about these priorities and the OKRs.
Yeah.
And if you never get to that in this 30-minute meeting that you have once a week, so be it. What you're doing is building the kind of relationship where when you make that face, you've got the strength of relationship to withstand it.
I love that. I love that. I know a senior executive who said to me, okay, Glenn, I'm going to go on a trip with the CEO. We're going to get in the plane. And the minute we sit down and take off, he's going to say, what's happening with the numbers? What's happening with the numbers? He's not going to ask me anything about my life. He's not going to know whether I'm married, whether I have kids, whether or not my kids are on vacation or whatever's going on. He will never ask me that. And then he came back from the trip. He said, that's exactly what happened. And so extremely dissatisfied senior executive because he doesn't have a relationship with the CEO.
And so you wonder why you have turnover.
There you go.
There you go.
So I love what's on your mind. That's a fantastic way to start a meeting.
All right. Glenn, before I ask you for your fourth and final suggestion, I'm going to ask you how and why might folks who are watching or listening to this, how and why might they want to get in touch with you?
Well, getting in touch with me is easy because my website is my name. So it's glengall.com, Glenn with 2 N's. And the reason, let me say a few things about my relationships with my CEOs. First of all, the CEOs who work with me, I love working with my CEOs, and they work with me for a long time, have a mentality, which is every great athlete has a coach. Sometimes they have more than one coach. And you ask yourself, why does somebody who's already great need a coach? And if you ask great athletes, the answer is because a coach helps me become better. That's the mentality that's critical in any relationship that I have. And so if you are going to work as a CEO and you recognize that there's someone out there who could help you become even better as a CEO, you absolutely want to do that. I personally, I was a CEO for 25 years. I had a coach for 17 years, and it was transformative for me. I called it compound interest. I kept getting better and better. And, I'd look over my shoulder and say, oh, those kind of problems, I can handle those kind of problems easily now. Let's take on bigger challenges. And I kept growing and growing and becoming even better.
I love both of those metaphors. The compounding interest is one that I use as well. And the elite athlete, right? They've all got coaches.
That's right.
And, we need iron sharpens iron. We need somebody to help us fill in our blind spots and,
Exactly.
just work that little bit harder to do the difficult thing to make ourselves that little bit more uncomfortable in a way that's going to help us get where we're trying to go.
That's right. And I'll briefly mention my two other personas. So I am a keynote speaker on artificial intelligence. So I was in venture capital before I started coaching CEOs. And one of the amazing things about being in venture capital is that you actually can predict the future. And you can because it's walking in the door every day and people are telling you what the future is going to be. And eventually you see a pattern. So I started diving into artificial intelligence about 5 years ago. And I write a column in Forbes on AI. I speak at many different conferences, including the Wall Street Journal conference on artificial intelligence. And now, thanks to ChatGPT, I'm a lot more popular as a speaker. It has nothing to do with me. It has to do with that now the world has discovered how to work with AI. And so I give a lot of talks primarily to senior executive organizations. And the last persona is I am a board member. And particularly where I add value is as a board member in a company that will recognize, either has or will recognize, that AI is transforming their industry and their world, and they need someone to help them through that.
Terrific. Thank you for that, Glenn. All right. Here's what I want from you now is your fourth and final suggestion about how our listeners, the leaders of companies around the country, maybe around the world, how can they get people to get the right stuff done?
So we talked about one-on-ones, and I'm a big believer in one-on-ones. Like I said, I just assume that people do that, but you're right. Not everybody will. And so it is the one-on-one. One of the key things about it, after you ask what's on your mind, and I'm going to use that from now on, thank you for that, is no matter how many key results we have, or no matter how many key results one individual has, at some point early in the quarter, we're going to see yellow, or we might even see red. If everything is green for the first 3 weeks of the quarter, you're not getting the right information. When you start to see yellow and red, that's great because now we identify issues that need to be addressed. The best way to do this is you ask your direct report to bring you a recommendation. Why? Because fundamentally, you don't want to own the problem. You want to be there as a servant leader to help solve the problem. Another reason why is you want people to become more of a general manager and not rely on you so much as the CEO. So if you come to me and you say, I'm having these issues, here's what I recommend we do, then you and I can be in a problem-solving mode together. I can either accept your recommendation and say, Aaron, that's a great idea. Go implement it. More than likely, though, I'm going to tweak it. I'm going to say, Aaron, you know what? I think you're going in the right direction, but the budget may not support it. Why don't we go talk to this department, or have you go talk to this department and see if they can loan you some resources for 2 weeks to help remove this obstacle? In other words, I'm here to help problem solve from a platform of a solution that you have brought to me. And that's extremely powerful role for the CEO to play. Why? Because the CEO can see things that no one else can see. That role enables you to put things together that anybody else who's working in a particular function cannot see. And so together we can figure out, hey, here's a yellow. It happened 3 weeks into the quarter. Let's address it now so we can turn it into green.
There's so much about this that I love. In particular, I want to highlight, I think one of the first things that you said, when you start to see the yellows and reds, that's a good thing.
Exactly.
If you are not hearing about problems in your company, if you never hear complaints, you're in trouble.
That's
Because
right.
the only thing that means is that you are being insulated. That's the only thing that it means. It
I
doesn't
agree.
mean that nobody's got complaints. It doesn't mean that there aren't any problems. It means nobody wants you to know about them. So I love that. And I want to kind of draw some keen distinctions here. I'm interested to find out, Glenn, whether you and I are on the same page about this. You said, and I love the way you put this, ask people to bring you suggestions. What you didn't say, and what I hear all too often, is you didn't say, tell people, don't bring me a problem unless you have a solution, which is something that so many leaders proudly say, and then they brag about saying it. And then I find they ask, why didn't I know about this problem before?
Uh-huh.
I love that you're asking people to bring solutions. You've got to require that people are willing to be a part of the solution, willing to put their mind into what are the solutions, and not just simply giving you the problem and saying, all right, fix it.
That's right. Let me layer on top of that, if you don't mind.
Please.
So when I was a CEO, I began doing this. And when you start this, if you haven't done this from day one, you get a lot of resistance. Because people are used to saying, hey, Aaron's the smart guy in the room. I'm just going to tell him what the problem is and he'll make it go away. Well, that's not scalable. And so initially people might resist that. But you teach them so here's what happened. Somebody bring me a suggestion. I'd look at it, I'd tweak it a little bit, and then I'd send it back and say, go do it this way. And then the next time they'd bring me a suggestion, and because I want them learning, because I'm hopefully teaching them, the next suggestion is even better to another problem. And then we reach a point where they send me suggestions on how to address the problem, and my email back or Slack message back to them is just approved. Approved, approved, approved. And then here's where the magic happens, Aaron. They realize, why do I need to bring the CEO a suggestion about my problem? Because he keeps approving them. I'm just going to go solve the problem. Yay.
And then you really do, as a CEO, have leverage at that point.
Exactly. And you there's a part of the culture you created, which is ask for forgiveness, not permission. Okay. But ultimately, when you reach a level of trust, you want that. You really want people to go execute, because you've worked with them long enough. They understand you well enough. You're aligned using an OKR framework or whatever framework you choose. You just want people to get the job done, and without forcing you to have to get involved every time.
I don't remember where I saw this number, although I have found it to be incredibly useful for me with respect to growing leverage, my own leverage, and growing the capacity of my team. If their solution is 75% as good as yours, approved. Right?
Nice.
If they can do the thing 75% as well as you could, delegated.
Yeah.
Liz Wiseman wrote a book called Multipliers, and she says in that book that the person who's most valuable, and I'm probably going to butcher this, essentially the person in the organization who's most valuable is not the genius, it's the genius maker.
Oh, love it.
And she tells a fantastic story. I can't remember the name, who the politician was. There's a politician, and your suggestion here reminds me of this story that she tells. Asked his speechwriter to write him a speech. Speechwriter brings the speech, puts it on his desk. Next day, he has not read it. Calls the speechwriter in and says, "Is this your best work?" Speechwriter says, "No." Grabs it, runs away, comes back, boom, on the desk. Next day, politician still hasn't read it. He says, "Is this your best work?" He says, "No." Grabs it, runs away, comes back, puts it on his desk, asks him the next day, "Is this your best work?" He says, "Yes." That's the first point at which the politician reads the speech. And so if we can tie this back to your yellow, green, red reporting, one of the fantastic things about your definition of yellow, as soon as you believe that there's a possibility that you won't deliver or won't deliver on time, bring it forward,
Right.
because that gives you, I mean, imagine if he had to give that speech the next day. There wouldn't have been that opportunity to grow this person's capacity to just bring my best work forward all the time.
That's right.
And when you do turn things yellow, as soon as things might be a problem, you have the opportunity, you have the time to go through that process that you were just outlining for us, Glenn, of what's your suggestion? Okay, well, have you thought about these things?
Right.
Great. Well, then go consider those things and come back with a new or an adapted suggestion. If you've got time, then you can grow people's capacity.
And I love the word grow here, because in that example you gave, what I ask CEOs to do is put your teaching hat on. You have an opportunity to teach this individual how to improve when they bring you that suggestion, by suggesting you go do different things, and you explain to them the why, the commander's intent. This is why I'm suggesting you go look at this, because you want them to become problem solvers on their own.
Love it. Glenn, this is a fun conversation. Folks, I'll tell you briefly how and why you might want to get a hold of me. There's something in the air, I think, the last month and a half or so. All of a sudden, and accountability has always been an important hot topic for CEOs and business owners. In the last month and a half, my phone is ringing with CEOs, business owners who are saying in greater numbers than ever before, the reason I'm calling you is I need more accountability from myself, and I need more accountability from my team. I want a culture of accountability around here, and we just don't have it. So if that's something that resonates with you, you want greater accountability on your team, because people feel fulfilled when they are accountable. People feel fulfilled when they are surrounded by accountable people. When shit's getting done,
Yeah.
people feel fulfilled. And I don't have to tell you the part where the business results are far, far greater as well when people are accountable. I will tell you, you're probably doing accountability wrong. Accountability is one of the topics that I love the most, because with just a couple of shifts, we can really help you shift the way accountability is running on your team. Of course, that's something that we get paid for. And I care about this so much. I'm happy for anybody who is watching this, anybody who is listening to this. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm the only Aaron Schmuckler there. Find me on our website, theyesworks.com. I am happy to chat with you briefly about some of those shifts and just let you run with these paradigm shifting changes in the way you're approaching accountability that I promise will make an impact. I just want to do that for you because I want you to have that kind of accountability environment where your people and your profits are rising together.
That's
All right.
beautiful. Yay.
Yay. My last suggestion for you about how to get people to get the right stuff done is ask questions. As leaders of business, it is so easy for us, and I am a culprit. It is so easy for us to go around saying things, telling people things. This is what we need. Do this, do that. Not this, please that. Giving people feedback. All of those things are valuable and important. And information gathering is just so incredibly valuable. So asking questions. Okay, this is yellow. Tell me about that. This is green. Tell me about that. I noticed yesterday that you weren't at this meeting. Tell me about that. I noticed this. I noticed that. Tell me about that. Tell me about that is a statement.
Yeah.
It also is. I mean, it's really a question in disguise,
Right.
and it's incredibly valuable. So, be out there asking questions. It can be very hard to depend on people to be reporting to us all of the information that we need to have to effectively lead our organizations. and make the micro corrections to people's direction that make such a big impact. If you are out there fact finding, information gathering, asking questions, then that 2% off of the correct trajectory that somebody may be heading is small now. 3 months from now, it's going to be big. When you
Right.
ask questions, you can make those micro adjustments that get people on exactly the right track instead of almost the right track.
I like that. Tell me about that. And if I may add to your ask questions, I say to CEOs, you need to be curious. And in particular, when you're not happy about what's happening. And so I have a slightly different phrase. When you're not happy about what's happening, first and foremost, I say, do not use the word why. Why creates a defensive posture. Why, Aaron, haven't you gotten this done or told me that it was actually red when we just had a one-on-one? Why means that you're not going to get the right answer. You're not going to get the answer you're looking for. However,
you're going to get the justification.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So here's a question. Help me understand. Aaron, help me understand how you're thinking about this now that we've identified that it's red and we just had a one-on-one. How are you thinking about this? Now, what's magical about that is I'm not attacking you as my intimidating role. I'm actually curious. And what you find is sometimes there's a really good answer.
Indeed.
And you want to know there's a really good answer. And often it's because maybe I didn't communicate very clearly to you.
100%. And that happens to me at least once a week, right? Is I will come to somebody who's on my team and say, what happened here? Or, you know, I thought we were going to do this, or I thought you were going to do that. Is another, just tell me about this.
Yeah.
And I learned ways in which I wasn't clear.
Yeah.
And sometimes I learned ways in which what I wanted wasn't going to deliver the results that I wanted.
Beautiful.
So then I get to go, oh, thank goodness you're here, because I would have totally screwed that up.
So if I may add on, there's one last thing I want to say about this. This was a very difficult thing for me to hear from my coach when I was a CEO, but it's true of every CEO. And the question you need to hold on to is, what is it about that behavior that I have enabled? Because it always comes back to the CEO.
Bingo.
Either I haven't hired the right people, I haven't given them clarity around their goals, I haven't managed them well, I may have the wrong culture, but it all comes back to me.
Yeah, love it. Very similar to the question that I often pose, which is, how am I contributing, or how am I even creating the circumstances I say I don't want?
Beautiful. Yeah, well said.
Glenn, this has been so fun. Thank you so much for joining me to talk about this. I mean, what's more important than getting people to get the right stuff done?
Exactly.
Love, right? So there are some things, and we just feel we have a better quality of life. The folks who work with us, the folks who are on our team, will have a better quality of life when they get to see the profound results that they can make with the kind of focus that you've suggested. When we're approaching them in the ways that you suggested that are non-confrontational and incredibly good at getting information. Thank you. This has been a really great conversation.
Fantastic. I've learned a lot from you, Aaron. And so thank you for sharing your wisdom with us.
Right back at you. And folks at home, thank you for joining us. If you think Glenn might be able to help you out, as I imagine he probably could, anybody who's watching, if you think I might be able to help you out, then I encourage you to reach out. Thanks for being with us.
Fantastic. Thank you, Aaron.